got a secret weapon for you that's going to skyrocket your sales without the unnecessary headaches that come along with using one of the big player CRM systems. That secret weapon is Close CRM. Now, let's face it, we've all been there. We've used a clunky, confusing system that kind of makes you want to throw your laptop out the window. Well, fear not, Close is here to save your time, money, and sanity. Close has all of the powerful sales tools you need, minus the drama, to manage your leads, track your deals, and crush your targets effortlessly. It has calling, emailing, SMS, multi-channel sequences, and it even has meeting tracking built right in. It's easy to set up and implement. You can stop screwing around with CRMs that aren't built for you and start selling and managing customers today. You can start a free trial using the link in the show notes, special for SSP fans. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I've got a fantastic guest on the show today, and he's someone who needs no introduction. And if you work in tech sales or leadership, you're probably already connected to Scott Leese. Scott is the CEO and founder of Scott Leese Consulting. He is the co-founder of GTM United. That's a private community for go-to-market professionals. We talk more about how that group got started and what the mission is for the community. He's also the CEO and founder of Surf and Sales. That's both an event that they do down in Costa Rica, as well as a podcast that you can find on all the major streaming networks. I was super excited that Scott agreed to come on the show for a number of reasons, mainly because he's not afraid to talk about some of the more difficult topics in the industry, and he's a no bullshit kind of guy. He says it how it is. He is completely and authentically himself, and he's managed to build an amazing business just around him and his expertise. We talk about the origin of GTM United. We talk about how they kicked off Surf and Sales. But some of the gold is towards the end of the episode. We talk a lot about the importance of building your network and some of the shifts that are going on in tech sales right now. Scott's of the belief that the model of the SDR is going away. I tend to share that sentiment as well. And so we talk about some ways that reps out there can start to close the gap. And one of the things that Scott suggests is building your network. And he gets into some very specific ways that you can start right now building your network so that you can then have that for future deals, future career moves, building a consulting firm, whatever it is you want to do in your life or career. Having a network is only going to enhance your ability to achieve that. So with all of that said, let me introduce Scott Leese. Scott, it's an absolute pleasure to have you on the show today. Huge fan. How you doing?
I'm doing great, man. Thanks. Appreciate the kind words there.
Yeah. So the first question here, I'm just going to get right into it. You have a massive following on LinkedIn and Twitter and everything else. You're obviously a kind of a social media personality. Do you have people walk up to you at the airport or the coffee shop or the bar and say, "Oh my God, are you Scott Leese? Nice to meet you."
Yeah. Is that
weird?
No, I actually do. That does happen to me. Especially when I'm in Austin.
Yeah.
You know, I bought a new house about a year ago, and my neighbor across the street came over to me and was like, "Are you Scott from LinkedIn?" And I'm like, "Holy shit." You know, it's very weird. It has yet to stop being weird.
I think a lot of us, like, we grew up thinking, man, it would be so cool to be Michael Jordan, or it'd be so cool to be like, Van Halen or something like that, and have, popularity from that platform, like being an athlete or a musician or an artist or something like that. And then here we are with like people with massive followings on social media, and now LinkedIn, which is like you're a business influencer and people are walking up to you at an airport or a coffee shop trying to get introduced.
And it's so small. I mean, I can't even fathom the level of notoriety that some people have. It's weird to me, and I have a nothing following compared to other folks.
That's what's like just crazy to think about. Even if you have like 100,000 followers on LinkedIn, compare that to someone who has tens of millions of people in a stadium listening to their work or listening to their seminar, whatever it is. It's absolutely mind-boggling to think about.
Can't imagine. Can't go anywhere. Yeah, I took my kids to the doctor last week, and one of the physician's assistants was like, "Scott Leese, and why do I know this name?" I'm like, "I don't know. We've took the kids here before, maybe." She's like, no, I think you know my husband. And she says her husband's name, and I'm like, "Oh yeah, I know him from like work and sales and stuff like that. So yeah, it does happen.
So early on in your career, did you ever anticipate doing what you do now, which is, you're consulting, you've got, you post content, you have a community, or did you just imagine you'd probably always be some kind of a sales leader, seller, something of that type?
Well, early on in my career, the answer would be no. I mean, I thought the pinnacle of a sales career was being a VP of sales. That was
Right.
as far as my brain could compute and comprehend. Um, and only kind of halfway through my operating career did I start to realize this game is kind of rigged here. And I can do really, really well and help these companies sell for hundreds of millions of dollars, and the founder's making 40 million and I made 400 grand. I don't understand. Like, I understand they should probably make more, but like that much more, what's going
Yeah.
on here? And so I started to get a little bit entrepreneurial for the first time, and then I started to kind of plan my exit, and I came up with the idea of how I might walk away. And that's how businesses like Surf and Sales started, and Thursday Night Sales, and my consulting business and things like that. But at the very beginning, it was just like, how do I be the best salesperson in the company and break all the records? Oh, that got me promoted to be a leader. How do I be the best leader in the company? Oh, now I'm in charge of all of the reps. Oh, wow. Okay, now how do I be the best VP of sales? Oh, I've hit the top. Then I got a win or two, and then it's like, is this it? And it was only then that I started to realize there was more out there. I had always kind of thought founders and entrepreneurs were way smarter than me, way braver than me, and just a cut above. I didn't think I was, worthy. It took a long time for me to evolve out of that mentality, actually.
Do you think that's something unique to tech and SaaS where you can be the top seller, the VP of sales, and you're kind of carrying the weight of the organization on your shoulders. You're carrying a big target on your back, as they say. But the folks above you are, 100xing sometimes what you're doing in terms of their, personal net worths and things like that? Or is that something that's in every industry from your perspective? I'm just curious if it's just a unique to tech problem that needs to be solved within tech, or is this just kind of how things work?
Well, I've never worked outside of tech, so
Yeah.
I don't know for sure. But when I've worked with people on a consulting basis who are not in tech, the disparity is still there.
Right.
The top seller is earning 100x less than the founders are. um, and they're still kind of put on a pedestal and idolized a little bit. um, and the worker bee, if you will, is like, oh, I'll never be one of those people for whatever
Yeah.
reason. So I think my answer would be that it's pretty universal regardless of of industry. And
Yeah.
I think that it's something that should change, frankly.
Yeah, you talk about that a lot, and that's something that really resonates about your posts and your content is, again, you're approaching the topics that most people won't talk about. And a lot of people are afraid to talk about because they don't want their leadership to see them post on LinkedIn and say, "Hey, wait a minute, why is the average VP of sales tenure so short? What does that mean for me if I'm on a career path to become a VP of sales? That's not what I want. I want some longevity, right? I want some guarantees that I'm going to be okay after, I don't know, 19 months. Right. So I think it's really cool that you talk about this stuff, and it's clear that you've struck a really big chord with a lot of people, especially in this industry. So tell us about kind of where that started. How many years ago was it? What were you doing when you just finally decided, like, I've got to start to untether myself from, from what I'm doing right now, the trajectory I'm on?
Yeah. Well, I've never been much of a yes man. I've always kind of pushed back, and um, I can remember being a sales leader for the first time, and this was a very top-down organization, and the CEO is like, "Here's your number for the next month, whatever," and I'm just like, "Get the fuck out of here!" Like, how am I supposed to do that? Walk me through
Yeah.
the. I literally said, like, walk me through the math of how you came up with that, and the
Yeah.
answer was sort of like, because that's where I want us to be. I'm like, well,
I
great.
made
I
it
want to
up.
be 100 times bigger than what you say. It doesn't mean it's possible right now. So, I I've always been a little bit outspoken about some stuff. I've always been a little bit of a defender of myself and kind of the little guy, and had a little bit of a chip on my shoulder. Um, and been very protective of my team and my people. I think it was my fourth VP of sales job where I really felt this disparity of income and earning based on results and output, and how integral I was to the team, where I sort of realized, like, this game is rigged, and it doesn't matter what I do, I'm never going to actually get like wealthy, like 0.0001% of VPs of sales maybe get wealthy, truly wealthy.
Right.
And so it was then that I was like, I got to start talking about stuff, and I got to start speaking my truth about things, teaching people about stuff, how to sell, how to scale, how to do this, how to do that. And I got to have a backup plan, man.
Yeah.
Because these dudes are going to fire me whenever they see fit. They're going to top me off at some point and be like, hey, Scott, we need a VP of sales who's taken a company public before. Like, I have no job security. It doesn't matter how good I do. I have no job security. So I started branching out, and I was like, well, I'm going to write this book and get my sales philosophy onto paper. Let me start building my network. And then, let me build this little micro conference called Surf and Sales. And let me do this podcast. And, let me build this community. And let me do some coaching. Let me do some training. And so I had, on this, for anybody watching, it's like on my left side over here, I have my normal income from my job. And on the right side is all my like side hustle entrepreneurial stuff. And that stuff started out at nothing. And it just started creeping. Started creeping up until it matched what I was earning from my regular VP of sales job. And at that point, I'd been a VP of sales 6 times. I'd had a couple, 6-figure kind of exits for myself, 9-figure exits for the companies. And the last company I was an operator at was hitting unicorn status. And I'm like, there's no point in me sticking around anymore. My normal income is matched on the side. How much bigger can this company possibly get? What's the difference between making like 2 million in an exit versus 3 million in an exit? Like, my life is not going to be that much different. Who cares? So I said, fuck it, and went all in on myself. And that was 3.5 years ago. And I've been doing different things, on my own ever since then. And funny enough, 3.5 years is now the longest I've ever done one job, if you can believe that.
Really?
Yeah, my longest tenure as a VP of sales was 3 years and 1 month.
Wow. So I see that. I see that a lot with entrepreneurs, where you look at the jobs that they did have before they started a company, and they're, 1.5 years, 2 years, 3 years, whatever it is. And then they start a business and it's like 20 years. So I think there's something to that. I don't know what it is, but I think people that are more entrepreneurial, once they're in charge of their own destiny and their own idea, that's what they want to do. That's where they stick, versus, settling into a company that might have a great culture and a comp package or whatever, and just riding the, the tide, right? They're out there, and you're kind of starting something. And once again, you have sort of control over your destiny and your direction, that lends itself to more longevity. So that's really crazy. I didn't know that.
Yeah. Once you get the itch, the entrepreneurial itch, and once you realize, damn, I can replicate what I was earning and go beyond what I was earning, doing my own thing, it starts to look impossible. Like, why would I ever go back? Why would I ever do something different? And you just start to see opportunities in a different way, And I think people are opening their eyes to this stuff way sooner than it was when I was growing up. And I think, people my kids' age who are in their early teen years, they can't fathom going into an office and working for somebody else.
Yeah.
It does not compute in any way, shape, or form.
Right.
They're just like, what am I going to do? What am I going to build? What am I going to create? And I think that's kind of just the way that the world is starting to go. And I think the balance of power is shifting a little bit from employer to employee. And employees have never had an easier opportunity to diversify their income, create a safety net for themselves, and kind of plan an escape route for when they want to go on their own.
Yeah. So when you got started, was it just you allocated a certain number of hours a day towards, it sounds like the book was the first thing that you put together. And then from there, surf and sales is the next thing?
Yeah, that was the next thing. And I was growing my LinkedIn presence, and I started to get these, DMs asking me for startup advice or sales coaching advice and things like that. So those were the first three kind of side hustles, business kind of side hustles that I had, where it was, directly from my experience, if you will. And, you don't make millions of dollars writing a sales book. Newsflash.
Yeah.
It's not like,
right.
My royalties right now are, enough to pay a couple bills, a couple $100 a month. That's all 3 different books combined. Right?
Wow.
You don't make shit. Amazon takes like 90% of your royalties. But you're not doing it for direct revenue though.
Yeah.
You're doing it for indirect revenue. What you're doing is you're like, I hope Jesse reads my book and likes it, and then decides to follow me, and then is like, wow, this surf and sales thing in Costa Rica sounds pretty sweet. Maybe I'll go to that. Or Jesse becomes a founder at one point, and he's like, we need to grow our sales organization. This dude, Scott, I've read his book. I followed him for a while. I'm going to reach out to him, and that becomes a consulting client. See what I'm saying? So the ROI on the books is like massive, but not directly from just selling the book.
That's an interesting way to start too. So it sounds like, that being your first thing, that's a big, like, hairy accomplishment, right? Is to get a book out there. I can't even imagine. I've thought about, like, man, I should write a book someday. It would be a very fun goal to achieve, but I've heard from people that it's, just trying to put that much creativity down and edit it, and just all the process of getting it out there. It's a lot. So I wonder if you kind of built up a nice muscle from putting out a couple of books. And then, now that's like your business card, as you're saying, like the indirect, network that it's built for you is a really cool approach. So with surf and sales, how did that come about, originally, like, and then I'm really curious because it's an international event. A lot of people are totally comfortable going to Austin or Vegas or, wherever for a conference. Not a lot of people are doing conferences in Costa Rica. So how did that get started? Was there any hesitation from people in your first couple of rounds of that event where they were like, hell no, I'm not going to get on a plane and go out of the country for a sales conference?
I think the people that feel that way, I never end up talking to at all.
Sure. Yeah.
The event serves as a funnel disqualifier of its own, right? I basically, like, I don't like big, huge, large conferences. I think they're a sham. I think it's just a kind of a circle jerk event where you run around, go to all these different parties, shake all these hands. You don't really make any meaningful connections. Everybody's trying to sell you something, and it's not the type of experiences or intimate interaction that I prefer. And they're always, to your point, always in the same places, Austin or San Francisco or New York or whatever, right?
Yeah.
I don't want to go to the fucking Marriott in St. Louis for a 3-day conference. Sorry, that doesn't sound exciting.
No, not at all.
Yeah. So I thought, well, what would be the opposite of that? The opposite would be, let's go someplace amazing. Let's have a very small group of people, and let's have half a day of content and half a day of play, basically. And let's see what we can do with that. I picked Costa Rica because I'd been going there for years already. I already kind of had it dialed in. I knew where to stay. I knew I had connections of where to rent surfboards and have surf instructors help people who don't know how to surf, and had drivers and cooks, and everything was just like turnkey basically. And it's cheap as well, by the way. So from a business perspective, I got very low overhead to put the thing on.
I was going to say,
if I can get 15 to 20 people to pay to come down to this thing, this is a big money maker.
Yeah.
And and we've sold out every single one so far that we've put on.
That's
we
so
have one
cool.
coming up November 27th to December 1st. If anybody wants to check it out at surfandsales.com, there's a couple spots left. But yeah, we've sold out every single one, and people go away saying like, this was a transformational experience. I learned a lot. I made really good connections, and it's just a blast, man.
Yeah, I'm going down to Costa Rica for the first time in August. Just had never been down there before, but really excited to check it out. So,
Well, good for you.
Yeah, I can't imagine. Yeah, that's the thing is I posed the question as, was it hard to convince people to go to Costa Rica? And now that I'm thinking back on the question, I'm like, probably not that hard to convince people to choose Costa Rica over Vegas.
No, but because like I said, though, the people who are open and into that kind of stuff,
yeah,
they're drawn in. And so it's not hard to twist those people's arm to go to Costa Rica.
right.
And the people who don't want anything to do with that, who are like, oh God, the ocean, the sand, passports, no, like they don't even reach out.
Right. They're just automatically qualified out.
Yeah, which is fine by me. Have fun in St. Louis.
I wanted to share a tool that I started using recently. And if you're doing any prospecting or lead sourcing from LinkedIn, it's definitely worth checking out. The tool is called Surf, and it's spelled SURFE. It's a Chrome extension that allows you to add contacts to your CRM directly from LinkedIn. I use it to add contacts quickly, follow my deals, keep track of my notes, and it's actually saved me a bunch of time. The data is always 100% accurate because I don't have to copy and paste each detail from each contact over to my CRM. Instead, Surf does it all for me automatically with just one click. Now, the folks over at Surf have been kind enough to put together a promo offer for fans of SSP. You can go to the link in the show notes and use the promo code JWSURF with an E 5 for a 5% discount on your first year. Check out the link in the show notes and go check them out. So you just put out a community, GDM United, and maybe from the outside, for someone who's not educated on sort of your vision, your content, and everything else, it might just look like any old sales networking community or Slack community or something like that. But I sense you have a much bigger vision for it than just, hey, let's all get in and talk about what sucks about our jobs, or let's, talk about what we won today, how we won today or whatever. Tell us a bit about that bigger vision.
Yeah, the bigger vision is that the way we go to market and have gone to market traditionally for God knows how many decades, certainly at least in the last 2 decades that I've been working, is dying and is going away. And this is not like an alarmist cold calling is dead type clickbait thing.
Right.
I don't think cold calling is dead yet. I don't think emailing is dead yet. I don't think DMing people on LinkedIn is dead yet, but I think all of them are dying. It's an undeniable fact that people do not pick up the phone today as often as they did 5, 10, 20 years ago.
Yeah.
You can look at everybody's response and open rates on email, and they are lower now than they were a few years ago. Mm-hmm. You can look at people's inbox on social platforms like Twitter and LinkedIn, and it's full of junk and spam. How many messages do you have in there from people asking if you want to own a Chick-fil-A, franchise or a State Farm insurance agency franchise because you look super qualified, right?
Yeah.
So nobody has time to deal with all that shit. We have become defensive to any type of outreach. When my phone rings, my ringer is off 24/7.
Yeah.
Because I don't want to be bothered, and I just think this is bullshit. Right? On email, there's literal programs and companies built to filter out garbage from your inbox.
Yep.
And if I don't recognize your name in my inbox, the odds of me opening the email, let alone replying to it, are slim to none.
Yeah.
Right? And so there has to be a better way, a new way. And my belief is that the only way we're going to be able to go to market is by utilizing our network and our brand. And I think go to market is going to be replaced by go to network. And go to network is going to be partner selling, co-selling, referral selling. It's the only way you're going to be able to get somebody to take a meeting with you. And the concept is like this. Let's say Ryan is trying to get a hold of Jesse. And Ryan knows me and I know Jesse. So Ryan comes to me and says, hey, Scott, Looks like you know Jesse over there. Do you know him well enough to help me get a meeting? We do XYZ, and maybe he has that problem. And I get that message from Ryan, and I'm like, yeah, I know Jesse pretty good. Let me see what I can do.
Yeah.
Excuse me. And I reach out to Jesse, and I'm like, hey man, I don't know if you have this issue or not, but my buddy Ryan works at XYZ company. They do XYZ 1, 2, 3. If you want to take a meeting with them, they'd love that. And I can assure you that it's worth your time. If not, if this is not an issue, no worries, man. No big deal.
Right.
And you now opt in via my feedback and introduction of whether or not that makes sense to you. And if it doesn't, no big deal. And if it does, then I send a mutual opt-in intro that says, hey, Ryan, meet Jesse. You guys have the context. Have a good chat. And then I would get paid for making that introduction if it closes, and only if it closes. So what we've just done is we've gotten rid of the cold call. We've gotten rid of the cold email. And you know what else we just did is we got rid of the traditional SDR. We just killed the entire profession of sales development and the business development reps. And we have just created a model where companies can go cost-free and risk-free to open up opportunities, paying nothing but on results. And you're not limited to having just a couple people. You can deploy a global SDR referral team, essentially. So my community, I have vendor partners who come to me and they say, hey, Scott, we're trying to get into these accounts. Who do you know? And I'll know onesies, twosies. The people that I don't know, I put that list in front of my community. My community looks at the list and puts a claim in and says, I know these people here. I can make an intro here. And I split the commission with them. So the vendor partner, all they care about is getting the opportunity cracked open, and they're going to pay 10, 15% or whatever. They pay me. I take my 10, 15%. I cut it in half and give it to, the member of my community that opened it up. Some of these checks are worth $30,000. If I get a check for 30 grand and you help me with the intro, Jesse, and I cut you a check for $15,000, fuck, that's more than you might make right now in your normal SDR or AE role, right?
Yeah. Yeah. That's a good month.
Now you can do that for any company on the planet.
Wow.
You're not constrained by only being able to sell for company one, company A, right? The size of your network and your brand helps you create the ability to make more introductions and make more referrals and therefore get paid more. It's a win-win-win for everybody involved.
Yeah.
And so that's part of what the long-term vision is for Go-to-Market United. It's to help companies break into opportunities and close more deals, and help members of the community get paid for a new non-traditional way of selling.
That's amazing. And it makes perfect sense to me. It reminds me a little bit of the channel selling, affiliate model that's been around for a long time. It's just a little bit more focused on sort of the individual versus like a channel selling team, right?
That's the difference. Is the traditional methods live and die based on just you.
Yeah.
And what I've done is, however many people are in my community, that's how many people I deploy. So let's say you work for, I don't know, IBM. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
But you could choose to work with Scott, and like I might know one or two opportunities, right? Or you can choose to work with Go-to-Market United, and you instantly deploy hundreds of people who might be able to make introductions to you, right? That's part of the difference in terms of the community vision long term. And I'm unaware of anybody else doing this right now, although I expect everybody else to start doing it very soon.
I'm familiar, and we could talk off air about it more because I don't want to get too into the weeds on it, but there's someone doing it in a different industry, not sales, that I'm aware of. They're more in the customer experience space, but it's not quite the same either because they don't have individual rep players in their community. It's more of you pay us to access vendors, and we'll give you reviews on vendors and things like that behind the scenes, and we'll recommend people. So it's a little bit different. The guy's based here in Phoenix, but I'll ping you his info offline here. It's really cool. And I think you're dead on that this is the direction that things are going. And even just anecdotally, the last couple of years, the largest deals that I've closed came from a network. It came from someone calling me up and saying, hey, did you know that Clorox is looking for what you guys are selling? Let me make an intro. And boom, Clorox deal 6 months later, right?
There you go.
I've got a couple of stories like that where it was someone calling me up that I had networked with, that I'd partnered with, scratched their back. They came back and scratched mine in some way. And most of the top reps on the team that I'm on right now, same thing. It was, hey, this person introduced me to this brand, and they had heard in their conversations with this company that they were on the market for this type of product or this type of solution. Bada bing, bada boom, intros made, deals cut, et cetera, et cetera. So I think you're dead on with that as kind of the outlook in the industry, the model of like SDRs picking up the phone and making 150 calls a day, and, reps cold calling, cold emailing, saturating everybody's inboxes with everything. I really think that you're onto something here. What are some of the challenges of running a community like that from your perspective right now? Is it tough to keep track of everything? Is it tough to, make the connections that you need to in order to make it profitable for everybody who's involved? I'm curious to hear a little bit about that.
No. Well, first of all, that's not the only way that I monetize.
Sure.
Right. So it's a paid community. So we've been around for about 2 months. We're at 100K of ARR, which pretty fast. I wouldn't say it's like breaking any land speed records for revenue growth, but pretty good so far for 2 months. We do 2 to 3 days worth of live events and training and coaching every single week. Sometimes it's me, sometimes it's guests that I know who come in and appear. Got traditional channels of entrepreneurship and career growth and things like this, helping people out. So we also have a talent collective and a job board. We help companies find jobs. We help our community members find jobs. Companies find employees, and our community members find jobs. So the value perspective, we feel, is there. We are monetizing already. So this concept that I'm talking to you about is a program we call GTM Assist, and GTM Assist lives inside of GTM United. The challenge with running the community, it's member growth, right? We don't spend any money on marketing or advertising. It's all just social and word of mouth and all that kind of stuff. So you have to be careful of promotion fatigue. I'd love to just make 4 posts a day about GTM United and GTM Assist and get everybody to sign up. Right. But that would land me in LinkedIn jail probably like real quick. Nobody would end up seeing my posts after a day. So you have to be careful with that kind of stuff. You have to try to activate and engage all the members. So I've got 200 people in there, let's say. Not all 200 people are engaging on the channels every single day. So, you're always asking yourself, what am I doing wrong? Why aren't people participating? And, sometimes it has nothing to do with you. It's just like, people have a life and people have a job, and, they don't want to be on there every day. They want to be in there when they feel like it.
Right.
But, you're always trying to think of new and interesting ways of how to keep people excited and engaged and things like that. And then, if you look at it from a long-term perspective, it's like, how do I turn this thing into $1 million business? How do I turn it into a thing that's profitable enough to maybe do nothing else? Maybe I shut down my other things and just do this. And all that tracking and all that kind of stuff. It's interesting that you mentioned that, because we're currently, in the lab, if you will, like building a back-end software to keep track of all that stuff, because the current products that are out there, in my estimation, are subpar. And things go into a black box. I've been the partner long enough to know that when I send over deals, I have no idea if the meeting got held. I don't know if the outcome was good. I don't know if a contract got sent. Shit, half the time I don't even know if it was closed won unless I ask. And then even when it was closed won, I don't know how much it was for without me asking. I don't know how much I'm going to get paid. And I sure as shit don't know when I'm going to get paid. So again, back to your earlier question about what's the long-term vision for GTM United. Well, we're building a software to handle all the back-end stuff, coupling that with this assist program, which we think will be a really interesting and compelling offering both for partners and for vendors.
Yeah. So with everything that's changing in our industry, you know, the old model of doing things is kind of going away. What's the one biggest piece of advice you'd give to sales leaders and reps out there right now related to just embrace the change that's coming? Any one big kind of final thought?
Yeah, I mean, you can't be successful doing what I'm talking about if you have no network.
Yeah.
So if let's say you're really good at sales right now, and up until now you have not cared about your LinkedIn profile, let's say, and you've got 800 connections on there. What are you going to do when people don't pick up the phone anymore? What are you going to do when your cold emails do not get responded to at all? I don't know.
Yeah.
So if I had one piece of advice is you better grow the size of your network. You better have as sizable a network as possible so you can leverage that network for yourself. All your contacts should be in that network. All your colleagues should be in that network. All potential companies that you might want to work for should be in that network. People that you look up to, mentors, coaches, advisors, that type of stuff should be in there. You need to be growing your network starting years ago. But if you're not there, you better do it now, because you won't be able to participate in this new go-to-network type of sales arena if you don't have a network.
Yeah. Sub question to that one, which is, if you did have 800 connections on LinkedIn today or 5 Twitter followers or something, what's something you can start doing this week to move the needle on building that network?
Piece of cake. There's 365 days in a year, last I checked, right?
Mm-hmm.
The maximum number of connection requests you can send without getting thrown in LinkedIn jail per day is 25. All right. Are you good at math?
I'm decent.
Okay. 25 times 365 is 9,125. Now, that would require a 100% success rate for every connection request that you send, which you're not going to get. So let's just say, though, you get even 50% of the people to say yes. That's 4,562 people. Okay. So if you did that for 3 years, you'd have, I don't know, 13,000 or so connections.
Wow.
Not bad.
Yeah.
If you did that for 9 years, you'd be over 30,000, and 30,000 is the max. Now, what you don't know is that this thing compounds upon itself and picks up momentum like a snowball rolling downhill.
Yeah.
Right? So what's one thing you can do? Simple. Add 25 people a day. Send a simple note that says, hey, Jesse, looking to connect with other sales leaders out there. Let me know if I can ever be helpful to you. That's all you got to say.
Amazing. I love the script, the template there. And it compounds too when you're posting valuable content, when you're sharing things, curating content. If you don't have your own content, you can share people's posts, you can share Scott's posts or podcast episodes, whatever, YouTube videos, and then people will start to come inbound to you and want to connect with you, and that accelerates it even faster. I'm assuming. I'm not quite to that level. I get a few inbound connects from every episode I drop, but I imagine for you, you probably post something and get a lot of inbound connection requext.
I mean,
you can't even accept.
Yeah. I mean, I have thousands of pending connection requests that I can't do anything with right now because I'm maxed out.
You're at the max.
But if you're sending out 25 or so a day, those people are getting added to your network. Now you have the opportunity to engage and comment on their posts. Notice I didn't say anything about creating your own content yet.
Yeah.
Right? Just engage on their stuff. Engage on their stuff. You get seen by people in their network. You're going to start to get some inbound requests. So It's very, very simple. You know, you can completely change the size of your network in 1 to 3 years.
Wow. Scott, this was amazing, an amazing conversation. Thank you so much for sharing everything. Undoubtedly, there'll be fans of the episode who will want to get in touch with you. What do you suggest for listeners out there who want to reach out and engage with you?
Yeah, you can check out my consulting work. I work with primarily early stage startups trying to go from 0 to 100. That's at scottleaseconsulting.com. We already talked about surf and sales. If you're looking for an alternative to big sales conferences, go to surfandsales.com. And if you're interested in community and this new way of going to network that I'm talking about, go to gtmunited.com and check that out. And if you just got general questions, the best thing you can do is hit me up on LinkedIn, give me a follow, and I will 100% get back to every single DM, no matter how many I get, as long as it's not spam.
As long as you don't reach out to Scott and try to pitch him on a State Farm branch in Texas.
Yeah.
Or outsourced IT developers
or
something like that.
Yeah, I don't need developers in Sri Lanka. No, I'm okay.
Well, Scott, thank you again for coming on. Amazing conversation. Appreciate your insights. And yeah, can't wait to get you back on again someday in the future.
You're welcome, man. Hopefully we can see you in Costa Rica one day.
Sounds like a plan.